once you have hollowed it out to the best that you can, you are going to add a slab to wherever you carved it out. And you're also going to be cutting your lid after that. So it's very hard to see in there, and I know that, and so I apologize for that. But what I did once I hollowed it out, and look how much, even this too, came out of it. So I'm using this clay that I dug out to make my slab, and to do any additive work that I'm gonna do after, which typically you can do your additive work before you carved it out. If it's something delicate, obviously you would wanna do it afterwards. But once I carved it out, I just kind of took my finger and just kind of moved it back and forth on the walls to try to smooth it a bit. I will do that more once I cut the lid off, because my lid is going to be cut pretty low. I want to be able to get in there and get into the top and carve out the top even a little bit more. So, I rolled out a little thin slab here. What I'll do is I'll place my piece on top of there to the best of my ability, make sure that every part is touching. And then you can take a pencil, something like that, and you're just going to be kind of tracing along this edge or this outline. And I'm trying to do it as close to my piece as possible, okay? Now that I have that, I'm going to cut out this shape. And you can always cut more or less off once you kind of place it on there. So here is the shape that I cut out. And I can see it's probably something like that. Let's see. So I can line it up. I am going to have to push it up in there. So I am going to lose a little bit, but when I push it into that space, it'll get a little bit smaller, but I think I do need to cut back. So I'm going to kind of just judge cutting it back. So I'm going to cut there. I don't need as much on this side. I'm going to cut back a little bit more here. And again, don't need that much on this side. Okay. So the shape can be somewhat generic. Like, don't get too caught up if it's not the exact right shape to put on your piece. Okay. So I've got it pretty good in terms of like the size, and yeah, it goes like that. The size and everything. So what I'm going to do is scratch this edge here. And let me just show you again. It kind of fits right on there like that. So I'm going to scratch the edge really good. Okay, use a scoring tool, use your needle tool to really dig into the clay, because now your clay is a little bit stiffer, and you know, it might not attach as well. So get some slip. Just gonna add a little bit of slip from over here and scratch it a tiny bit more. Okay, so when I lay this on here and then I take it off, I can see where I need my scoring lines. I don't necessarily need that. I just kind of wanted to judge the size. So I'm going to scratch all along these edges. Even if your scratch marks go into the center, that's not a huge deal. Okay, so I'm going to place that there. Now I want this slab to look completely embedded into my form. I don't want them to look separated anymore. So I am going to kind of push on the edges, and I did push up a little bit here, but first I'm going to get the edges down, which helps create like air pressure on the inside, so that if I do press in the middle, it's gonna push back a little bit and not just like deflate. So as I'm kind of rubbing this in, I can see like, okay, I don't need quite that much clay. And as I'm rubbing it in, I'm just scraping away some with my finger. Okay. So now I've kind of got that pushed. I'm not going to spend a ton of time showing you every step because I don't want this video to get too long in terms of, not every step, but like how smooth I get this and how defined. It will take me a while to get there and make it look completely integrated. So I'm not going to do that on the video, but realize that's a very important part. If it's flat, again, I talked about this in the other video, if it's flat, it's a lot easier to cover, okay? Because you don't have to worry about trying to shape it to what you have already. Okay, so once you are done with that, you have chosen like how you want to cut your lid. With your sketches. So I am going to kind of figure that out, and I did my sketch, and I kind of wanted my lid to go down, but also kind of raise up on the sides. If your cuts are too off on the side, like they're all the way over here, the lid is not going to stay on for you. So you do have to be careful about that. Or just keep it in mind as you're drawing. So I'm trying to get it as accurate as I can. I want it to be a smooth slope downward into that space and a gradual shift up to where the peak of this is. And cutting out the lid, you want to make sure you have it drawn on here just how you want it. Because if you don't, it's like you can't go back to it. So really keep that in mind, like make sure the lid is exactly how you want it before you start cutting into it. And I'm doing these lines so I can really try to perfect it as much as I can. Okay. So now that I have my line, and that really, I would have spent more time on that because I want this to be really nice. So bear with me here, sorry. Okay, so there's my line. It follows the slope of the actual piece and how it kind of hangs here. So when I am cutting on this line, I want to hold my X-Acto knife at a 45-degree angle, kind of like this. If it's a little bit lower or higher, it's okay. But think about it in the sense that you're cutting a pumpkin lid off. Okay, if you were to just cut the pumpkin lid straight down, it could fall through. Okay, so if you do it with the 45-degree angle cut, it's going to stay on there better, okay? So when I just push that X-Acto knife in, I'm actually turning my piece and not necessarily sawing, and not sawing at all, the lid. So I'm not moving my X-Acto blade up and down. And if you can do it like this, you just have a little bit of less cleanup in the long run. Okay, so be careful. Now it's gonna become detached once I finish that little cut. Okay, so what I like about when I cut the lid is I can see the thickness. It's hard for you, again, to see the inside of this, but it looks fairly even. There are spots that are a little bit thicker than I want, or that could just be shaved down some. This one I knew was gonna need some more shaving because it was really challenging to get up inside of here. Okay, once it is cut, it is very, very important that you don't change this edge and this edge much, because you want it to just sit right back on there without it, you know, sliding around. Okay, so this just makes it a really tight fit. So when I say like don't change it much, you can be, you know, rubbing the surface just a little bit to get out any of those kind of lumps and bumps to get your craftsmanship nice. And you can also carve on the edges. So you can carve on the inside edge to thin it out again. You can also carve inside, obviously, in here to get all this thickness out. So if you are a bit confused or concerned that you're not sure if your lid, you know, is what you want, just make sure you ask me first, and then I can give you some feedback on that. When I am shaving the rest of this out, I don't want to shave too much, so I'm kind of taking my time in terms of like just laying the blade very gentle on there and slowly making a swift motion upward, and that's going to just take away a little bit at a time so I don't accidentally take away too much, because it's already not it's not too thick already. Okay, so that's all I got for you. Let me know if you have questions.